Hi folks, MasakoX here. Now, as you might remember from the last time out, the idea that Gohan could become something more turned out to have reached a bit of a turning point. In this timeline, Gohan's rage boosts and the like took a very different turn. Granted, we've had more clarification in recent movies as to where that boost can actually take him, instead of being forgotten, but here, we've likened Gohan's quirk to something akin to Broly. Instead of the actual OG Broly from 1993, we've got our son of Goku taking that mantle. His place in the Dragon team would have been far more precarious and risky for even the likes of Piccolo and Kami to deal with. In the last part, Gohan had used his smarts whilst training and surviving on Yardrat to transport himself back to Earth and try and figure out a plan to take it back from androids 17 and 18. He had made a clone of himself thanks to his training to stay on Yardrat to avoid alarm from being raised, and that meant that nobody knew he was back on Earth. But that also meant that no one would come to his rescue. He was on his own. For Gohan, this was a fact-finding mission that went disastrously wrong, or disastrously right as you remember. Despite all the years of uninterrupted training on Yardrat trying to find a way to basically turn Gohan into a monk-like character, it turned out not to have worked. Nothing was enough to truly get the upper hand against the creations of Dr. Gero. Gohan had done all of that work, sacrificed his childhood for nothing. Or so he thought. The only thing that he could do in the here and now was to act. All this tippy-toeing around for years could only take him so far. Now he had to get into his hidden rage and legendary powers. In one swift move, Gohan let loose, and both 17 and 18 paid a heavy price for their original charge on Earth. They were dealt with in a very dark and sordid fashion by a Gohan possessed, acting very unlike his usual self. But it did the job. The androids were no more, and Earth was finally free from their tyranny, and Gohan had vowed to do what he could to try and restore his planet to some level of glory, with or without his friends back on their temporary world. Let's wrap things up. Sadly, the price for this success was really high. In order to win, Gohan had to give in to his rage in a rather particular way. This wasn't going to be your usual transformation, oh no. Once you let that beast out, there was no going back. His personality had changed drastically. This was no longer the same Gohan that had arrived on Earth just an hour ago. Gohan could feel that his very soul was barely recognizable. But after all was said and done, that was a small price to pay. The androids were history. His carers were wrong. Hiding in the galaxy was not going to bring their home back. Only force would. However, as far as his allies were concerned, they didn't know about his victory. Not at all. His remaining friends and family back on Yardrat were not aware of this happenstance. From their point of view, all that they knew was that Gohan had tricked them in order to escape somewhere, by using the duplication technique, and was no longer on the planet. While most of them could sense Ki, that was of little comfort. When they locked onto Gohan's energy, it was a little jarring. His aura had become so strange, so warped, that it threw them off for a good long while. If that was Gohan, what on earth happened? But it couldn't be. Could it? They must have made a mistake. Chi-Chi was losing her mind. She had already lost Goku. She didn't want to lose Gohan as well. She blamed herself for this occurring. She had not talked enough to her son about how he felt, trying to come up with some kind of means to reassure his troubled mind, about how the young man was most likely bearing all the weight of trying to be the one to defeat the android someday. Just him. They must have put too much pressure on him, clearly. Sadly, there was no Piccolo, no Goku, no Kami. No one else but Chi-Chi to help him with that burden. Granted, Krillin, Yamcha and Tenshinhan were strong, but despite this, they never quite managed to bond with Gohan to the extent of Piccolo. They failed to replicate that connection that Gohan had had with the Namekian, and even his father. They were unable to forge a degree of trust with him and faith that could keep Gohan from doing something reckless, which was obviously the case in the here and now. Tenshinhan seemed to blame himself the most for this blunder. He was upset in not being able to find new Namek yet, despite dedicating his non-training hours to tracking the new home of the Namekians. But now, he could try and use his power to find Gohan. He could at least try to find some solace in being able to locate Goku's boy. But what he found terrified him. Yes, that was Gohan's energy, but it was nothing like the young man that he had seen just this morning. Tenshinhan's face froze. He fell to the ground and was shocked at what he had just felt. Yamcha asked what was wrong, and all that the Triclops could muster was, It's finally happened. It's loose. We need to get to Earth now, or else we might lose Gohan forever. If we go back and the androids are still there, they will kill us. After that, there'll be no hope left for Earth, Chi-Chi. We need to survive. We must stay here until we can be sure the androids pose no danger. There won't be another future without Gohan. None of you can even come close to those things. Well then, if you're not going, I'm going. Krillin looked at his surviving friends. You know what? I'm going with her. Tenshinhan, keep looking for Namek. Yamcha was about to utter his thoughts, but Chi-Chi glared at him, and he backed off. These two had personal beef with the androids from previous parts, and as such, the two of them then instant transmission to Earth. But what they saw was unexpected. Whilst it was still in ruins after years of bombardment from 17 and 18's games, understandably, the mood didn't reflect that. There was a movement going on. It was a very different one. From what they could hear, people weren't screaming in horror or fleeing for their lives, no. People were celebrating? When the pair of them got closer to a nearby settlement, the source of this noise, people were flooding what was left of the streets, cheering. What happened here? Krillin was surprised, but Chi-Chi felt hopeful. Did Gohan do it? Krillin looked seriously back at his partner. Chi-Chi, we don't know where Gohan's head is at right now. We gotta be careful. Apparently, some mysterious young savior had come by not long ago and had destroyed the androids all by himself. It was a shock to all, including these two. The androids who would usually show up nearby to play had not turned up. Rumors had started to circulate that they were gone, and then their thoughts were confirmed by him showing up. They were wiped out by that powerful hero that they had never seen before. People were gathering to pay him a tribute. Tribute? What was going on? As they ventured further into the throng of onlookers, they saw a large pile of said tributes, left by extremely grateful people. And amongst it, talking to the authorities, was Gohan. And yet, it wasn't Gohan. He looked very different to what they remembered. Chi-Chi had never seen her son like this. He was larger, bulkier than before. His eyes were solid white, and his hair no longer jet black, but yellow. But this wasn't your typical Super Saiyan. Was this truly the animalistic force that they had been frantically attempting to bottle up all this time? As she ran toward him to embrace her son, two guards blocked their path, readying their weapons, thinking these two to be android sympathizers. This then attracted Gohan's attention, and he looked up, spotting Krillin and his mother. Gohan then spoke, but calmly with a deep voice.
It's all right. Let them pass.
When Chi-Chi ran toward her son, she hugged him, but he didn't reciprocate the gesture. He just stood there while she embraced him. You did it! You actually did it! But why did you have to run away like that, Gohan? We could have helped! Gohan remained silent, but then uttered,
For how long?
Gohan?
For how long will this planet be safe for, Mother?
Chi-Chi was confused, but Krillin kind of understood.
This peace is transitory. How long will it be until the next threat inevitably emerges?
Gohan looked up to the sky, as if the light was soothing his face in the scorched planet.
Call Bulma,
he resumed.
We need Capsule Corp back in action to rebuild and prepare.
Prepare? For what? Gohan gave them a stern look.
To prepare for whatever comes next. There will always be new dangers manifesting themselves, Mother. It's time we take care of them before they start.
Chi-Chi was unnerved by the steadfast and unwavering Gohan. No sign of emotion emanating from him at all in this entire conversation. Gohan, you need to rest. You can let this form go. You've been through a lot, certainly, but...
Why would I do that?
Chi-Chi blinked twice. Gohan, what are you talking? This is where Gohan turned around to fully face his mother for the first time, and his eyes pierced her very core.
You told me for years that the best course of action was to keep all this power locked up, like a caged animal. But the truth is that it was the answer to all our problems. You were wrong. You were all wrong. I did what I had to do to take our revenge.
Chi-Chi was fighting a losing battle. Tears were starting to well up. The androids are gone, Gohan. You can rest now. She tried to plead with her son. Krillin looking at Gohan, worried. Gohan? Buddy? You're starting to freak me out.
There is no rest!
Gohan boomed so that everyone could hear.
We have a duty to keep this planet and its people safe. I will be restrained no longer. I shall bring peace to this world, and you two can either help me, or you can be gone from my sight!
Chi-Chi was nervous about this and grabbed Gohan by the arm. Sweetie, what are you saying? Gohan, you have to knock this off! Return to us! The danger is Gohan knocked her out with a gentle and yet precise hit. Gohan! What the hell? Krillin looked absolutely shocked whilst Gohan remained calm.
Didn't you do this to calm me down, Krillin? Not so easy when the roles are reversed.
He looked down at the unconscious body of his mother.
My mother has been through a lot, and she needs some rest. But Krillin, stop wavering and call Bulma. Now.
Krillin was not very happy about this whole ordeal, but he'd rather not anger this new Gohan, or whatever this person was. One crumb of comfort was that he wasn't entirely gone, as he had caught Chi-Chi before she could collapse on the ground with full force, and promptly left her with the local doctors and nurses. Krillin used instant transmission to bring everyone back to Earth, explaining the entire situation. Bulma wasn't really sure what to think about this new state of being that Gohan had acquired, but she did agree with him that they needed to help the planet rebuild, and that they did. Initially, they aided with reconstruction work, with Gohan being active throughout the whole process. He was also insisting on bolstering the security division of Capsule Corp and the new society to the point of being an invigilator, like he was some kind of divine being overseeing the people, his creation. Bulma was initially skeptical about this. That is until they then discovered that the Red Ribbon Army were up to something. They had been still operating under the guise of Red Farmer and were busy trying to recover something from the ruins of Dr. Giroux's lab. Apparently, there was one more bio-android left that they had missed, locked away in a sub-lab deep in the mountains outside North City that was still growing. But Gohan had managed to intercept these bad guys and destroy said Bugman, killing off the remaining members of the Red Ribbon Army before they were able to transport this creature to a safer location. This had brought Bulma to a very grim conclusion. Gohan might have been right about everything. What they needed was constant surveillance, seemingly. Especially since Red Pharmaceuticals had been seemingly operating under their very noses for all this time and they had no idea. But one added bonus from this was that this did allow Capsule Corp to score some of their old technology, speeding up the rebuilding process. No end. But Gohan had become so popular as the hero of Earth that he was elected as their new king. No, not a king, an emperor. Chi-Chi was upset about her son's current behavior, but he was actively avoiding contact with her, to the point where their relationship seemingly was nothing like mother and son anymore. It had become cold and uncaring. Krillin, Tenshinhan and Yamcha, however, were still searching for new Namek, despite Earth being safe again, not being fully happy on what Gohan and Bulma were trying to do. But they were convinced to at least teach a little bit at the brand new martial arts academy. Emperor Gohan wanted people to know how to fend for themselves. Not only that, but Gohan wanted Puar and Oolong to train more shapeshifters, remembering their expertise from early ventures. So Earth, for once, would have spies amongst galactic society to help them against interstellar threats before they arrived. Naturally, these two were opposing this rather paranoid and hostile stance on outer space. But their tune changed very quickly not long after that. After Poir was sent on their first mission to get a general overview on what was happening, this was where he discovered about the wizard Barbody, and he was heading toward Earth, wanting to awaken some ancient evil apparently. And after finding this out, Poir convinced himself of such a necessity that was his new job, thusly backing down and complying with Gohan's wishes. Also, this gave Gohan some more time to train before Barbody arrived, something which he did pretty often on his own. When Barbody got to Earth, he was surprised to see this advanced society, with all of these people wanting to check out his ship. Of course, he sent off his minions to deal with the problem, but said minions were dispatched by Earth's defensive forces. On one hand, this was good, because he could control all these useful people at once and gather the energy needed to awaken Majin Buu very quickly. But on the other hand, he had not anticipated such a sizable resistance. Earth wasn't meant to have this kind of power, what gives? Suddenly, a young man wearing blue armor with a cape arrived, tearing off the top of his ship. He had golden hair, solid white eyes with no irises, and was very bulky. Barbody felt that he could use this one for his own gains.
Hello, Wizard Barbody, I presume? I am Emperor's son Gohan. I want you off my planet.
Barbody grinned wickedly.
Oh, your highness, I can sense a lot of interesting turmoils within you. Why don't we work?
Barbody couldn't finish that sentence, because before he started casting his spell, a quickened version of the special beam cannon simply drilled through his throat, ending him instantly. Dabura then flew in immediately to fight this new opponent, and at times it got very close. That is until the so-called Emperor turned his hair green, and before Dabura could even use his spit on him, this beast had grabbed him by the throat and divided his body in two. After all was said and done, Emperor Gohan tossed Dabura's head away like a piece of trash and retreated to his throne room, like nothing had happened, other than a couple of flies had gotten in his yogurt. He had already forgotten about new Namek Gohan, about Mr. Piccolo, Kami, his father. Tenshinhan was still looking, but this wasn't his priority anymore. Gohan will keep Earth safe by himself, by any means necessary. He knew his friends were whispering behind his back that the prolonged effects of this transformation might have riddled his mind forever, but if that was the sacrifice that was needed to keep Earth safe, so be it. He was ready to take Earth into a great and glorious future. A future where his planet was no longer a victim. He looked at his plans. Spies and trained defenders. Oh, that was merely the starting point, after all. Why wait to be attacked and invaded when you can take something for yourself first? Emperor Gohan, the legendary Super Saiyan, was fulfilling the ideal of his people, being the ultimate warrior, and soon turning into the ultimate conqueror. But that's where we end things for now. What will the future hold for this dictator? We are not sure, but it might return in the strangest of places. I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later.